there, welcome back to another episode. This is another What the Hell Is This? And this time I'm looking at Tim Burton's Mars Attacks. This is from the end of Tim Burton's prime era. This is like, I would say this is the last like really pure early Tim Burton film. This is like the point where he went from Tim Burton does a ton of great stuff to Tim Burton does stuff that's, some of it's really enjoyable, some of it's a bit weak. You know, this is the last one. This is the last hurrah, basically. Because after this, into Sleepy Hollow, which is fine, but it's not quite the same level as the early stuff. And then you went into Planet of the Apes, and then you went into Big Fish and stuff like that, and then went on to various films, some good, some bad. This is the last like pure weird Tim Burton film. This is probably the film that made him go, "Oh my god, but that's too weird." So, there's Mars Attacks. A film I adore. I saw this film twice in one weekend when it was in the cinema because it was only there for a week because it bombed horribly in America, and we got it and it was gone instantly. It was like one of those films made in the late, 90s that were very subversive. I mean, you'd this, you'd Starship Troopers, these kind of films that were suddenly made. You wondered, did the studio know what they were making? I mean, they were all released but at the same time. You went towards the Fight Club just after this, and The Matrix was as much more what is reality, what is real. Edith and Truman Show, it was just the whole period this time just before the millennium where you actually got a bunch of really weird films in a kind of sci-fi vein that were far more interesting than what you get now. And were very dark and twisted. You even did other films like Dark City and things that were also very enjoyable. You had Existence, you'd a bunch of stuff that was just, there was obviously something going on that was just dysfunctional, that was rather wonderful. I enjoyed this time a lot because even the kind of weirder film, even the kind of flawed films of this period tend to be more interesting than what we get now. You also got some crap like Godzilla 98, but most of it is quite enjoyable. I mean, some of the crap I've covered, like the Avengers Refined version, but there's lots of really cool stuff too. So, Mars Attacks was the film made at the same time as Independence Day, but it was released 6 months later. They fell behind. Originally, there was meant to be 2 alien invasion movies in the same summer, but Mars Attacks fell behind the schedule and stuff, and it was released at Christmas, so it was a very different film, so it was like, well, they can probably tell it's a different film. But the films came out, and Independence Day made so much money, even though it's a moronic film. It's enjoyable, but it's moronic. It's really moronic. This film is Mars Attacks intentionally moronic. Mars Attacks knows it's stupid, and there's a lot of fun with it, and it's clever stupid. It's kind of like Starship Troopers in the sense that it's taking a kind of well-used genre and subverting it to show the kind of weirdness below the surface, which sci-fi really should be doing a lot more than it does. So, Mars Attacks was pretty much based on like trading cards, or that's the film based on cards rather than even a comic or anything. It was based on trading cards with lots of images and weird stuff. Apparently, they didn't realise the trading cards told a story, because when they were doing the film, they just used images. And then later on, after they wrote the script and looked at it, they did tell a story in this one, but they didn't care. It was like, well, we've already read ours, so we'll do ours. But what this film really is about is chaos. The Martians are basically trolls. The intellect trolls that we get nowadays, and that's what's interesting watching the film now. It's aged really well, because it's about what we've been through the last 3 or 4 years, the idea of an incompetent government, corrupt in every possible way, and but it's actually a government you've seen for years, like even in the Obama administration, where they're setting up, because Jennifer plays this kind of more liberal president who's always has speeches and it's always torn nonsense, which is much more of a good talker, but he's talking absolute nonsense, he's a bit insincere, which is more of the early period, but also the Trump period where it's obvious bullshit going on. It's a bit of both, really. Because it's setting up it's set during a more liberal administration, but the tone of the film is much more the Trump era, where everything's hyperbolic and weird and corrupt and twisted, and you can't trust anything. So it's got a element of both. What happens when both sides are in power, Republicans and Democrats, or right and left. It's like you've got a president who's just mealy mouthing everything, but you've also got brazen corruption going on in the background, and people trolling each other and saying horrible things to each other, and all these. So the films show all these caricatures who are all representative of humanity at its worst. Because a lot of these disaster films, it's humanity at its best, humanity at its most dignified. And this one is like, no, none of this. We're going to show people as horrible. So you have Jack Nicholson's two parts. He plays the president, and he also plays this Las Vegas hustler who runs a casino, who's got all these plans for expansion, which doesn't not end when the Martians attack. It still keeps going. Kind of like Trump. But he's also playing the president, who Trump is a president as well. It's like, it's the ultimate Trumpian film. Really. If you hate Trump, it's the ultimate send of Trump. Jack Nicholson playing Trump in two different ways. And you've got that going on. You've got Annette Bening as his wife, and as the Las Vegas guy. And she's like an ex-alcoholic hippie who thinks the Martians will show us a way to greater happiness. It's a send-up of all those people the hippies who want universal understanding and blah, 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 to try and make themselves feel better, really. To try and ignore their own problems. And you've got, like, Glenn Close as the president's wife, and everything has to be perfect for her. Like, she's so much on the surface of everything has to be a brand name. And Natalie Portman plays her daughter, who is just as rebel, who just hides in her bedroom most of the time and hates being in the White House. You've got Lucas Haas as a guy who works in Dunkin' Donuts, living with his family, who are in this basically trailer trash. And Jack Black's his brother, who's in the army. So you've got this whole, like, old America, gun crazy America stuff going on. You've got Jim Brown and Marty Pam Grier, and they're separated. He's working in the casinos as a person who meets and greets people, and he's not getting paid very well, and he's an ex-boxer who was once world champion. Now he has to do this to make a living, and his family are spinning apart because his kids are skipping school, and all hell breaks loose there. So you've got all these kind of stories. Michael J. Fox and Sarah Jessica Parker as two celebrity supporters, one supposedly serious, the supposed serious media base, obsessed base here, and she's just a hack reporter, talks about fashion. You've got Pierce Brosnan, who's a scientist who never gets anything right. You've got Rod Steiger as the military man, and you've got Paul Winfield as the more liberal, normal, other military man who doesn't never give an opinion. You've got Martin Short, and one of his best performances of his career as a PR guy, Jerry, who's a ladies' man who has no clue, but he'll make anything sound vague and never give you any facts. His opinion about everything is just about how can we spin it. So all these characters, you have this sense of a world that's gone completely corrupt, that's dying to be destroyed. You have these troll Martians who arrive, and the joke about them is nothing they do makes sense. They do all this stuff, and everyone's always trying to work out what they're planning. What do they want? They turn up to the initial meeting and destroy everything because someone fed a dove. They have intense hatred of birds. So everyone thinks, we gotta give them a second chance. Even though they kill tons of people, they still have to give them a second chance. Then they go and meet Congress and kill Congress. And there's all this stuff going on, and it takes Jack Nicholson's character most of the film to realise he has to fight back against the Martians with nukes. And that doesn't work either, because the Martians are like an affront towards any kind of sanity, or any semblance of sanity. They're like these little toys that have come to life and are just destroying us. And it's almost like a junk food culture just coming at us and destroying us from within. Because they're just these little Martians with bubble heads, and it's just like, they all look like toys, and they're killing us. And that's it. It's our own tacky culture coming back. Our own need for simple, obvious solutions to things coming back as these trolls, basically, who don't care. They will do anything for a laugh. I mean, destroying important relics is good for a laugh. They can't even tell the difference between reality and fiction because as they watch their own destruction, they're watching Godzilla movies and, Dukes of Hazzard. They don't care. They're laughing at things. The view of humanity, they just look at as weird experiments to play around with. They don't care about anything our culture has. They literally don't care. They're just trolls. They're just after a laugh. And that's what's great about it. It's just a total send of our culture. In a weird way, it's a film that's less funny as for all the setup and jokes. It's more funny for the weirdness of it all. It's funny weird. It's not funny it's funny weird. And that's what I think I bombed, because people just get a sense this is not what I expected. I thought everything was going to be a funny send-up of these Martians, and it'd be a humorous film, but it'd be silly, but that's it. But it was a weird film. It was just all a film about how weird we are, how strange we are, how depraved and odd we are. But most of the characters in this film are odd. Like Jack Black's character's killed, surrendering with the American flag, which is an affront to America. Michael J. Fox gets burnt alive really quickly and he just left his hand. I mean, Pierce Brosnan gets decapitated and his head is used for experiments and you see bits of his body all over the place. Sarah Jessica Parker's head's taken off and put on her pet dog, and her dog's head's put in her body. And it's just weird. It's just all this weird throwaway stuff. Nothing makes sense about them. It's just wonderful. It makes no sense. It's like, it's a frustration of sense that it's almost like an attack on the audience of like, you wanted something easy, we're going to give you something weird. Like, we're going to give you two Jack Nicholson performances where he plays two people that aren't cool at all. Because you expect him to be cool and he's not cool at all. He's played into the idea of a guy people who think they're respectable, think they're wonderful, and are just sleazy and weird and make you want to go for a bath and afterwards seeing them. But he's really funny in both, but he's just type of thing. And all the characters that Tom Jones pop up for the end, it just shows you how crazy the film's got. I mean, Danny DeVito shows up to get killed. You want to conquer the world, you need lawyers. He's a lawyer, and he's the most sleaziest Danny DeVito performance ever. Everyone in this film, apart from like Natalie Portman and Lucas Haas, and Sylvia Sidney as Lucas Haas' gran, are sleazeballs. They're weird. And even if the people who think they're liberal, most of them are weird. I mean, Jim Brown's family are normal as well, but there's only a few here or there. Most of the time, and even they're flawed. I mean, everyone's flawed. Even every character who is more normal have their flaws in them as well. There are kind of weird elements to them. They're just not full-on hypocrites and depraved maniacs that the rest of them are. So in case you haven't realised, this is one of my favourite films. This is one of my favourite cult films. This is just wonderful. I've seen this endless amount of times. This is one of my good films to watch today for I hate humanity, they're all really horrible people. It's that thing when you're in a misanthropic mood. Mars Attacks is great because it just delivers everything that you want when you're really annoyed with people. The same way other films might be more heartwarming, you might watch when you're quite feel good with people. This one is we want to see humanity at its worst, but also have funny, weird moments throughout and weird creatures doing silly things. Mars Attack delivers. If you want to see something really cynical about politics, Mars Attack delivers because they get nothing right throughout, and it's all weird variations of stuff you see happening in politics all the time. Like we're have a disaster, but we're going to focus on blaming someone else for some other slight from 2 years ago. All that stuff's in this film, which you see all the time in politics. You get the various ways of not actually doing what you need to do in politics in this film. Like, the characters never do what they need to do. People are useless throughout. People ignore reality. Everyone's in their own little bubble or delusional. There's a great joke about how Jack Nicholson's character's always making speeches at present and no one's ever listening. TV's always on the background. So you hear it, but you see other characters doing their own thing. No one's listening to them. No one cares. And they're all in their own little bubble that's getting destroyed by these Martians who do not care about anybody's story or anybody's perceived dignity. They're just going to destroy everything. There's some big jokes about Jim Brown's two kids are playing video games all the time. And obviously a waste of time until the Martians attack, and because they've got used to video games, they know how to shoot, so they can destroy the Martians more than anyone else can. Better than the military, because they steal the Martians' guns and shoot back at them. And it's like, because they don't care about the proper way of doing things, they just do what they think makes sense. And it's just this whole thing about all these supposed grown-ups being lunatics and being perverts and being just weird. And they all deserve what they get. And it's just great. It's just a weird film. It's a odd film, even at the end. It's so uplifting at the end because Tom Jones starts singing. It's not unusual at the end as well. Surrounded by all these animals. And it's just perfect. It's a perfect weird thing. There's a Mexican band playing the Star Spangled Banner as Lucas Has gets his medal for saving the world. It's like the ultimate send-up of the end of Star Wars. And there's Natalie Portman who's going to be in Star Wars pretty soon after this. You've got all these weird things, and it's also a send-up of every big event in Washington as someone's getting a medal for something, and then they just send it up entirely. He starts talking about teepees, everyone should live in teepees, and the whole film's full of weirdness. It's not a joke, so it's with weirdness, which I think just puts certain people off. I think it's one of those films you either love it or you hate it. It's like there's no in between. What it's doing is for a specific audience, and either you're going to get it or you're not going to get it. There's no in between with this one. This is either a great film or what the hell is this? So it's perfect for what the hell is this film, because it's great, but it's also weird as hell. So I hope you enjoyed me raving about how great Mars Attacks is for probably 15 minutes, and I hope this will inspire you to go see it, because it is really terrific, and it is one of my favourite cult films. So bye for now, I'll be back soon with another video.